Hello, and welcome to our presentation of UML Design Sequence by Caleb Johnson and Christopher Hemming. What is UML Design Sequence? A UML Design Sequence diagram is a model that shows the flow of logic. It shows the interaction between objects in sequential order, shows the transition of requirements to higher levels of refinement. The design sequence is not strictly meant for developers. It's a useful tool for communicating to others who do not have a programming background. It's easy for them to understand and follow. The way you create a UML design sequence diagram is by using lines and arrows to indicate the direction of the flow of logic. Boxes are used with borders to indicate the function or class. The class name or function name should be in the middle of those boxes. Here's a diagram that we created that gets a file with a file name. You retrieve the file using the file name, and then it returns the file name so that it can be used for getting the file with the get file function, and then bringing back the file to be used.
Some of the pros of using UML design sequences include things like the fact that it shows a very high-level view of the project. This means that it shows the cases in the system, solutions, or any applications that you would like to display. These models, as discussed previously, are very easy to understand, which means that our users and our stakeholders will be able to see what we're doing because it's not just for programmers. Non-programmers can understand this just as easily. This also fixes a lot of the communication gaps between developers. For example, if one person is working on one side of the project and another developer is working on a different side of the project, it shows the connection between the two, which allows them to communicate well between each other. It also shows that you know the proof of the concepts, because it shows all the logical view between the project and how it interacts within each other. Some of the cons, however, for using UML design sequence include the fact that it is a very complex and large system. It's not always going to be easy for someone to understand right off the bat. UML and design sequences are very complex to build, which means that it's not always also in the formal notation. This means that it's not necessary for all of your projects. Because it's very complex and very large, you don't need it for very small projects. However, it can help in larger and more complex projects in themselves. And because it's very large and complex, it can be very time consuming. It can be very hard to create just because there are so many tools that you need to learn and figure out before you can create a very well designed design sequence for UML. It's not always the best to communicate what the system will do as well, because it can present as an inside out kind of view of the system, which reflects a what is, not really a why is. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation. And in this, with our recommendations, I would say that this should be used for observing the behavior of multiple objects. This shows how the objects interact and how they, quote, collaborate between each other. When you want to find the alternatives to sequences and objects are also usually when you would like to use this, to demonstrate how they interact between each other and to show the logical view of a sequence, because this will show the how it is and not necessarily if you don't want to show why it is. Thank you for listening, and here's our works cited page.